He slapped the table so hard the silverware jumped. Everyone at the dinner table froze. My mother gasped, and my brother flinched, but neither of them looked nearly as shocked as I felt. My dad's eyes were burning into me, like I'd just committed the ultimate betrayal. His voice thundered across the room. "After everything we've done for you? You won't help your own brother?" Welcome, dear folks, to HD Reddit Stories. Have you ever been blamed for doing the right thing? If stories like this move you, don't forget to subscribe. The worst part wasn't the noise or the anger. It was the silence that followed. The way my mom dropped her eyes to her plate. The way my brother leaned back smug, like he knew I'd cave under pressure. And the way my dad stared at me, disappointed, as if I wasn't the daughter he raised. All I did was say one word. No. I wasn't rude. I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't emotional. I just said no. I wasn't going to put my name on a loan application for someone who had already defaulted 3 times. Someone who blew through money faster than he could borrow it. Someone who only came around when he needed saving. My brother. This was supposed to be Christmas dinner. It was supposed to be peaceful. Instead, it turned into an ambush. A setup I didn't see coming. I had no idea they'd bring it up at the table. No warning, no heads up, just a polite smile and then boom. "So, your brother needs help with a loan. He's working hard to turn his life around." My mom had started gently. "He just needs a cosigner," Dad added. "A little signature from you, that's all." A little signature? On $82,000? I could already feel the trap closing around me. And when I calmly declined, that's when the slap came. What they didn't know was this: I had already done the math. I had looked at his credit history. I knew what would happen to my own credit score if he failed again, which, let's be honest, he would. And I knew something else they clearly forgot. I wasn't 17 anymore. So no. I wasn't going to be their backup plan. And that's when I realized they didn't just want my help. They expected my sacrifice. I didn't say a word after my dad's outburst. I just excused myself from the table, took my plate, and walked to the kitchen. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. Not because I felt guilty, but because I finally saw them for who they were. This wasn't about a loan. This was about control. About expectations they had layered on me for years, and now that I was old enough to say no, it felt like a betrayal to them. But it wasn't always like this. At least, I didn't always see it this way. Growing up, I was the reliable one. The kid who cleaned her room without being told. The one who brought home straight A's and never needed bailing out. I wasn't flashy or wild or particularly needy. I just did what I was supposed to do. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. My brother, Kevin, was the opposite. Loud. Reckless. Magnetic. He got into fights at school, snuck out at night, and failed classes like it was a hobby. But he was charming. And somehow, that made everything forgivable in my parents' eyes. He totaled 2 cars before he turned 21. One of them my parents co-signed for. He maxed out 3 credit cards and ended up in collections more than once. And every single time, they bailed him out, financially, emotionally, legally. They'd tell me things like, "He's still figuring it out." Or, "Not everyone has your sense of responsibility." And for a while, I believed them. I thought maybe I was just naturally better at keeping it together. But that Christmas dinner changed everything. It wasn't just the slap on the table. It was the way they looked at me. Like I was being cold-hearted for not willingly tying myself to another one of Kevin's disasters. Like it was my duty to be the net they could fall into. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying every moment, how calmly I said no, how quickly it escalated, and how my brother didn't say a single word in his own defense. He just sat back and watched it unfold, like it was a show he'd seen before and knew the ending to. The next morning, I got a text from Mom. "We didn't mean to upset you. We just hoped you'd support your brother in a time of need." I didn't answer. An hour later, one from Dad. "Come talk to me face to face if you're going to disappoint your family like this." And finally from Kevin. Don't worry about it. I'll find someone else who actually gives a damn. That one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly on brand. Kevin had always played the victim. When things went south, it was never his fault. It was the world. Or the system. Or me. I sat there, staring at my phone, and thought, what if I had said yes? What if I had agreed to co-sign that loan? I knew what would have happened. He'd miss a few payments, go radio silent, and suddenly I'd be the one holding the bag. My credit ruined, my finances in jeopardy, and my family would still find a way to make me feel like it was my fault. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I pulled up Kevin's financial history. I had access to some of it through an old account where we had once been joint users, something from years ago, a shared subscription or utility we'd never fully closed. Through that, I saw the full picture. He had defaulted on 2 major loans already. One of them was closed due to non-payment. The other was in active collections. His income history was a mess. He'd hop between jobs every few months, no consistent employer, no savings. And the kicker? The loan he wanted me to co-sign wasn't just for school or rent or medical bills. It was for a startup. A personal brand consultancy. Whatever the hell that meant. His Instagram page was filled with motivational quotes and half-naked gym selfies. He called himself a lifestyle strategist, but he didn't even have a working website. I nearly threw my laptop across the room. I wasn't going to be the foundation for his fantasy life. Not anymore. I started researching how co-signing works legally. What obligations I would face. What legal protections I wouldn't have if things went wrong. And the more I read, the angrier I got, not at Kevin, but at myself. Because deep down, I had known all this. I just hadn't allowed myself to admit it. I was raised to believe that family comes first. That no matter what, you stick by your blood. But what they never said was that sometimes, family will bleed you dry if you let them. 2 days later, I called a financial advisor and a lawyer. I needed to know what my options were, not just for this loan, but for future protection. Could they open accounts in my name? Could they forge consent and drag me into messes I didn't agree to? The lawyer confirmed my worst fear. Yes, it had happened to people before. Especially within families. A forged signature here, an accidental mix-up there, and boom, you're suddenly liable for someone else's debt. So I did something else. I froze my credit. It's not a permanent solution, but it meant that no one, not even me, could open a new account or apply for credit without going through layers of verification. Then I sent a group email. Short, blunt, respectful. After reviewing the situation thoroughly, I've decided not to co-sign or lend my name to any financial agreements. This is final. I appreciate your understanding and will not be discussing it further. No one replied. Not at first. A few hours later, my mom sent a single sentence. I just hope you can live with yourself if your brother loses everything. And that's when it hit me. They weren't worried about him. They were worried about what he'd take down with him, including their name, their reputation, and maybe even their money. I was never the golden child. I was the safety net. The backup plan. The one who never made trouble so they could focus on the one who always did. That realization hurt more than I expected. The next week, I got a call from the bank. A voicemail, actually. Hi, this is Andrea from Capital National. We received your information regarding the joint application submitted under your name. We just have a few follow-up questions. Please call us back at your earliest convenience. Joint application? I never signed anything. I called the number back and asked for clarification. The agent on the phone hesitated, then said, It seems there was a digital application submitted with your name and information. We just need verbal confirmation that you're aware of it. I told her I was absolutely not aware of it. I requested a full freeze and an investigation. The email confirmation I received an hour later had a PDF attached. It listed my name, my address, my social, my digital signature. Forged. I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mix-up. Kevin had forged my information. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. She advised me to file a report, even if it was just to establish a record of identity theft. It could protect me later if things escalated. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just about one loan. This was war. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I didn't even text him back. Instead, I quietly opened a new Google Drive folder and started uploading everything. The forged signature. The emails. The voicemail from the bank. The PDF showing my name on a loan I never authorized. I labeled the folder Insurance. And I wasn't being metaphorical. Because if there's one thing I'd learned from years of being the quiet, reliable daughter, it's that no one listens to your side of the story until you can prove it. So I decided I would prove everything. The first thing I did was get an official credit report. I wanted a time-stamped record showing exactly what was happening in real time, my frozen status, the unauthorized application, and the trail Kevin had left behind trying to sneak through my financial life. Then I filed an official police report, not to press charges, not yet, but to create a record of identity theft. My lawyer strongly advised this step. It gave me standing, in case Kevin tried to move forward with anything using my name again. It also sent a very clear message: I know what you did. I have proof. And I'm protecting myself. After that, I reached out to the bank again. I requested a written acknowledgement that the application was under investigation and that I had officially disputed it. They complied. I added that to the folder. Everything went into that folder: screen recordings, timestamps, even the original Christmas dinner email chain, where my parents first brought up the loan. I wasn't taking any chances. And then I went silent. No replies to texts. No family dinners. No check-ins. No explanations. I knew exactly what would happen next. They would panic. Then guilt trip. Then spin the story to make me look like the unreasonable one. And that's exactly what they did. A week later, my aunt texted me out of the blue. Your mom says you've cut everyone off. She's worried. Is everything okay? 2 days later, I got a call from my old high school friend whose mom was in the same church circle as my parents. Hey, weird question. Did something happen with your brother? Your mom mentioned something about a family financial dispute. And finally, my cousin sent a screenshot from Facebook. My mom had made a post. A vague, sugary sweet guilt bomb of a post. When you raise your kids to be strong, independent thinkers, don't be surprised when they turn those strengths against you. All we wanted was unity. All we did was ask for help. Broken heart. The comments were exactly what you'd expect. Sympathy. Assumptions. No one tagged me directly, of course, but they didn't have to. I scrolled in silence, heart pounding, not with sadness but with something colder. Clearer. They were going to burn me in public. So I built a firewall in private. That's when I made a decision. If they wanted to make this public, I'd make sure the truth could be public too, on my terms. I didn't start a fight. I didn't go on Facebook. Instead, I contacted the bank one final time and requested a written confirmation of identity theft investigation, along with an internal review summary. I wanted language that made it undeniable that the loan application was fraudulent. When I received it, I sent a simple email to my family's group thread. No anger. No drama. Just facts. Asterisk. Hello all. Attached is a formal investigation summary from Capital National, confirming a forged loan application in my name. I have filed an identity theft report with the local police department, and my credit accounts have been secured. This situation has deeply affected my trust in our family. Until further notice, I will not be engaging in financial discussions with anyone. Please respect this boundary. My name. Asterisk. The silence after that was louder than any table slap. But then came the most unexpected twist of all. My dad called. I stared at the screen when his name popped up. For the first time in years, I hesitated. But curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Hey," he said. His voice wasn't angry. Not even defensive. Just tired. "We didn't know," he said quietly. "Your brother told us you agreed. He said you were just being dramatic at dinner." I didn't say anything. He showed us a screenshot. An email. Looked legit. "I don't know how he—" I interrupted. "You didn't think to ask me directly?" A pause. "We should've," he sighed. "I'm not asking you to forgive him. But I wanted you to know we didn't ask you to do something illegal. We didn't know it got that far." And I realized something else then. They weren't just upset that I said no. They were embarrassed. Because they believed him. Again. Because they let him drag them into this. Again. Because deep down they knew I had always told the truth, and they had chosen to ignore it. That was the real betrayal. Not mine. Theirs. A few days after that, Kevin finally reached out. An actual phone call, not a text. I let it go to voicemail. "I guess you won," he said. "Everyone thinks I'm some criminal now. Congrats." No apology. No accountability. Just bitterness. But I didn't care. Because I wasn't done. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. So I gathered everything. Every document, email, screenshot, and official report, and met with my lawyer one final time. I asked her to draft a legal notice that could be delivered to Kevin and my parents if any future financial contact or coercion occurred. It was called a cease and desist. Not because I thought they'd try again, but because I needed a boundary that didn't rely on hope. I signed the document, had it notarized, and sent copies to all three. My lawyer filed a copy with the police report as supplemental documentation. And then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a vacation. Alone. No family. No drama. No sudden emergencies. I turned off my phone, walked along the Oregon coast, and finally breathed without bracing myself for the next guilt trip. When I got back, I checked my email. No new messages from any of them. But I did see something that made me stop in my tracks. Kevin's business website, the Personal Brand Consultancy, was down. His Instagram was deactivated. A few mutual acquaintances had quietly unfollowed him. It didn't take much imagination to figure out what happened. My silence had made more noise than their drama ever could. And the best part? I never once raised my voice. It's been 7 months since that Christmas dinner. 7 months since the slap on the table. Since the accusations. Since the fake loan application. Since I decided to stop being the glue for a family that only saw me as useful when I was silent. I wish I could say things returned to normal, but they didn't. They shifted. Permanently. For the first few weeks, everything felt heavy. Not because I doubted my decision, I didn't, but because I was grieving something I hadn't realized was already gone, the illusion that my family would protect me the way I protected them. Kevin never reached out again after his voicemail. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to fix anything. He just disappeared, at least from my life. I heard through a third cousin that he tried to apply for another loan and got denied. He'd moved back in with some friends and was trying to reinvent himself again. Typical. My parents kept their distance. There were no birthday calls. No texts. No attempts to check in. They'd been embarrassed, yes, but also exposed. I think they realized, probably for the first time, that I wasn't going to absorb their discomfort anymore. That they couldn't manipulate me with guilt or tradition or shame. And when that failed, silence became their new strategy. And you know what? That silence was beautiful. I used to think boundaries were aggressive. That saying, no, would hurt people. That refusing to play a role in someone else's mess meant I wasn't loyal, or loving, or compassionate. But now, I see it differently. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors, with locks I control. And I finally locked the one that kept swinging open to chaos. In the months that followed, I started to rebuild. Not just my credit, though yes, I did that too, but my peace. My sense of self. My ability to trust my instincts again. I found a therapist. I started journaling. I stopped filtering my decisions through the imaginary lens of, what would my family think? And I did something no one in my family ever really understood. I rested. Not lazily. Not aimlessly. But intentionally. I stopped answering emails past 6 p.m. I deleted every group chat I didn't want to be in. I changed my emergency contact to someone who actually shows up for me. And for the first time in years, I stopped feeling guilty about choosing myself. Then one afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mom. Not a card. Not a call. A handwritten letter. The envelope was thin. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Part of me expected another plea. A justification. Some thinly veiled attempt to reset things without ever acknowledging what happened. But what I read was different. Asterisk. I've read your email 100 times. I printed it out and carried it around with me for weeks. I didn't want to believe Kevin could do something like that. But deep down, I think I always knew. We didn't protect you, and I'm sorry. Not just for this, but for years of making you feel like the responsible one was also the disposable one. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know, I see it now. Asterisk. There was no signature. Just, Mom. I didn't cry. I didn't rush to reply. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe I won't. Because healing isn't about going backward. It's about standing still long enough to see where you really are, and then choosing, consciously, where to step next. As for Kevin, I don't think he'll ever apologize. People like him rarely do. They live in a world where consequences are always someone else's fault. But that's not my world anymore. These days, when people ask about my family, I don't lie. I don't sugarcoat. I just say, we're not close. I wish them well, but I'm protecting my peace. Sometimes they nod in understanding. Sometimes they ask more. And sometimes I can see it in their eyes. They're still trapped in their own version of that story. Still carrying the weight of being the good one. To them I say, you don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your silence. And you are allowed to walk away from people who keep breaking you just because you've always been the one who holds it all together. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped crossing it. And honestly, the view from here is better than I ever imagined. If there's one thing I've learned from everything that happened, it's this. Sometimes the people who love you the most also hurt you the deepest. And not always out of malice, sometimes out of habit, expectation, or denial. But damage is still damage, no matter how it's packaged. When you grow up being the responsible one, you're handed a quiet burden, the unspoken agreement that you will sacrifice, bend, and absorb so others can be loud, reckless, or careless. You're expected to keep things together. To smooth over messes. To never say, this is too much. But that's not love. That's imbalance. And imbalance, when left unchecked, becomes exploitation. For years, I thought love meant staying. Meant compromising. Meant saying yes when every cell in my body screamed no. I thought keeping the peace meant keeping the family. But real peace isn't quiet compliance. It's active protection of your energy, your boundaries, and your values. Saying no to my brother's loan wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming my voice. It was about telling my family, you do not get to use me. And when they punished me with silence, guilt, and public shame, I finally saw the truth. Love that demands your silence is not love at all. It's fear dressed up as family. I learned that people will try to rewrite the narrative when you step out of their expectations. They'll call you selfish, cold, ungrateful. Especially if you've been the dependable one all your life. But listen closely, those words aren't about you. They're about control. They're the echo of people losing access to a version of you that served them. You are not selfish for protecting your boundaries. You are not cruel for refusing to enable someone's dysfunction. You are not broken for choosing peace over chaos. The world doesn't reward quiet strength. It doesn't hand out medals for saying no. But it does offer something better, clarity. And that clarity is what frees you. Clarity that says, I can love someone and still refuse to save them. I can forgive, but I don't have to forget. I can walk away and still wish you well. Most importantly, I've learned this. Family is not just the people who raised you. It's not just shared DNA or holiday traditions. Family is who shows up for you without expectation. Who respects your no as much as your yes. Who doesn't just want you in their life, but values the way you live yours. You do not owe your peace to people who demand your silence. You do not have to earn love by erasing your needs. And you are allowed to grow beyond the version of yourself your family is most comfortable with. In the end, standing up for myself didn't shatter my family. It simply revealed where the cracks already were. And once I stopped taping them over, I found something extraordinary. Not loneliness. Not regret. But freedom. Peace. And a life no longer lived in fear of being called the bad one for finally doing what was right for me.